So I got this air freshener, but it's almost like a hand grenade because you have to like set it off, like detonate it. So you detonate it here and welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees have a little World Series rematch with the Dodgers, this big series. Didn't go as well as expected there, but we'll kind of break it down, go through the good, bad, and the ugly of all three games there. Of course, the second game, very ugly, but probably more concerning for the Yankees is going to be Luke Weaver. Looks like he's going to go to the IL for 4 to 6 weeks with a hamstring pulley there, so obviously the Yankees are going to have to manage a little bit in that closer role, which is kind of a little fluid there. With you put Devin Williams, you put Fernando Cruz there, so we'll look at that, as well as look at DJ LeMahieu again. Kind of mentioned him in the last episode, kind of looking a little bit as old self a little bit, not great, but again, I got some numbers for you that actually looks promising there. So we got that, as well as Aaron Judge. The poor guy can't even leave his hotel room. So got a little Yankees Dodgers, we got a little DJ, and we got Aaron Judge not able to leave the hotel room when he's on the road there. So good episode for you, but before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show. So as much as you like watching me, if you want to get my takes fast, you want to get my opinions fast, you don't have to wait a whole week for a new episode. Subscribe to the audio podcast version of Section 420 Talkin Yankees, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And if you happen to be watching right now, whether on TV, on YouTube, subscribe to the channel so you don't have to wait. Get notified right away when new episodes go up. So a lot of work for you to do. Make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show, the visual version of the show, which is available on YouTube. Get everything. So obviously the World Series left a bad taste in your mouth. It was Yankee Dodgers, and it almost felt like a little bit like the Yankees didn't even belong on the field with them. And obviously the Dodgers ran around the bases, and it looked like the Yankees defensively, just kind of were off their heels a little bit there. Now you could break down some of those games. Obviously the Yankees had some leads at some point, especially Game 1 there. Even in Game 2, they were kind of clawing back a little bit and had an opportunity. Unfortunately, Trevino a little short there, but again, a little extra power there. Maybe could have hit a grand slam, could change the whole thing there. But overall, you felt like the Yankees and the Dodgers didn't belong in the same field together. Okay, fine. Now you have the revamped Yankee team. Okay, minus Soto, but you got some of the new guys in here, such as Goldie, Goldschmidt. You have Bellinger there. You figure, some of the other guys like Dominguez. So the Yankees got some, kind of coming at the Dodgers with a new team, maybe in a better team they did last year there. And you figure, all right, we're going to show the Dodgers, we're going to show we belong with them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Now look, were the Yankees completely outclassed the whole way? No, I'm not going to really say that. Obviously, look at the second game, which there's not much to go into. Will Warren had nothing, and he got blasted. The Yankees lost 18-2. I mean, it's almost anything worked out. Just again, the worst loss in the franchise history there. But a game like that, which gets crazy when you got to bring position players to start pitching like that. Even the other team brings in position players to start pitching there. It's not even worth analyzing. So the really other games we're going to analyze and look at a little bit are games 1 and 3. So if you want to go to the first game there, of course, Max Fried. Now look, you like a chance with that. Fried has been great for the Yankees, but you figure at some point he's just not going to be as great. Now, the Yankees, came out early, swinging there, had a 5-2 lead there. Now again, a little back and forth a little bit with, crazy enough, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, the first time in Major League Baseball history that two reigning MVPs, hit a home run in the same game like that. Judge did one in the first. Ohtani showed him up in the bottom first as well there. So yeah, that a little bit of drama there. But the Yankees had built himself a 5-2 lead with Max Fried on the mound, and you like your chances in that situation. Now, a couple of things you got to analyze here. Look, it was that 6th inning that really undid the Yankees there. Now, Fried unfortunately started, maybe just started tiring out a little bit. You figure at some point, and I'm not going to call it a clunker because he kind of was in control the whole way there. But again, leadoff home run by Ohtani there in the inning, and maybe Boone should have gone to the bullpen a little bit sooner there. Now, look. It was really the baddest situation there because I know what Boone was thinking. It was like, look, I got Freddie Freeman coming up, a lefty. I don't want to bring in a righty right now. Let me get free to get maybe 2 more outs there. Maybe after Freeman, then maybe that's when you take Max Fried out to go to someone in the pen there. So it was kind of like the circumstance and the matchup is why Boone stuck in there with him. But unfortunately, not a good idea because right after the Ohtani home run, gives up another hit after that, and then another hit to Freeman there, which is he didn't want. Then finally takes Fried out there, brings in Loizaga. Now I know Loizaga served the hit there, and if you look in the box score, say, oh, Loizaga blew the game. It really wasn't his fault totally. I mean, that Max Fried kind of created that mess there, but because of the matchups, Boone couldn't take him out too early because I know what he wanted. He wanted that lefty on lefty matchup against Max Fried there, but unfortunately against Freeman, unfortunately it didn't work out for him. And of course Loizaga gives up a big hit there, and of course Tim Hill walks with the bases, gives up a bases loaded walk there, and the Yankees are behind 6-5 and ended up losing that first game there. So, with the Yankees outclassed, with the Yankees being, you could say that a little bit, maybe not, but I think it had to do more with the matchups and the situation there. And you could probably blame Boone a little bit, maybe staying with Max Fried a little bit too long in that situation there. But unfortunately, you're kind of looking back, it's like, oh man, we can't beat these guys. They beat us in the World Series. Now we had a 5-2 lead, and our bullpen failed us. So, but you can't really say the bullpen failed because, again, a lot of that was doing with Max Fried. And again, the guy was 7-0 coming in here with an ERA under 2. So because of this game, his ERA is now 1.92. It's still under 2 there, but, and you just look at the circumstances. He picked like the worst time to have maybe. And again, I wouldn't say it was a bad game. It was just like, it was all going well into that 6th inning where things started to unravel a little bit. And again, maybe you could blame Boone a little bit. Maybe after giving out the home run to Ohtani, maybe that he should have yanked them out a little bit sooner, or it's had someone coming up there to figure, all right, this is like the 3rd time going through the lineup there. As good as Max Fried has been for the Yankees there, he is human there. Maybe Boone should have a quicker hook for him. But again, he stuck with him a little bit too long because I know he wanted that matchup against Freddie Freeman. But unfortunately for Boone and the Yankees, didn't work out there. Again, the Dodgers take that first game. Again, if you're a Yankee fan, you figure, oh, we can never beat these guys. We had a 5-2 lead. We had a de facto ace on the mound. Still worked out there. But again, I think this game, I don't think the Yankees were completely outclassed or beaten. I just think the circumstance really got, it was more about the circumstance than anything else there. And I think if it was a playoff type of situation, I think Boone would have went to the bullpen much sooner than that. In the regular season, you're not going to go to your bullpen in that sort of situation. You're not counting outs the way you're counting outs during a playoff game there. So again, I just think it was more the situation more than anything else there. But unfortunately, the Yankees dropped the first game. And again, the second game, it's not even worth talking about. Look, Will Warren had nothing. He was, I don't say he's wild. It's like his stuff. He couldn't throw strikes, and then when he put a ball in the zone there, they were clocking him. I mean, the game was over in the first inning. There, they're up like 4-0 before you even blink there. And yeah, there's really not much to talk about. Yeah, Judge hit a couple home runs. That's about it. But really nothing to analyze there. Which then brings us to Game 3, which kind of interesting that they throw Yarbrough out there, who again, as kind of the highlight of the previous YouTube episode, it has been Yarbrough, what he's been doing for the Yankees there. Now he has the one start there against the Angels, so still in Los Angeles there. Has a brilliant start, goes like 6 innings. Only gives up 1 run. This game was almost a duplicate of the previous game there. He gives up an early home run, and that's it. And Yarbrough goes out there and shuts down perhaps one of the best offenses in baseball, holds him to his 1 home run, 1 run, and 4 hits there. And again, out of nowhere, this guy just keeps doing it. And again, if you look at the radar gun, he's barely touching 89.9 there. So it's all herky-jerky, it's all motion, it's all sidearm stuff. It's all, changing speeds there, just to show, like, you don't have to throw 100 miles per hour to have success and lead there. And, of course, the Yankees, again, put a few runs on the board, get an early one by Jason Dominguez there, and then Ben Rice, probably what you say with a big blow there, a big 2-run home run. The Yankees kind of tee off from there and get a great game from DJ LeMahieu, 4 hits in the game. His first time getting 4 hits in the game since in 2021 against the Red Sox there. So DJ looking good there. And what you also like about that Game 3 there, again, it was a nice kind of easy, clean win there. You also bombed Yamamoto. Again, he was someone the Yankees were considering 2 off seasons ago, and again, wanted to stick with LA for various different reasons there, which I kind of beat that to death. But, the fact that you knocked that guy out, he couldn't get through the 4 innings there, and you had a pretty comfortable way to go the whole way. The only bad part of the game, that the Yankees had a couple injuries with that one. One of them being Jason Dominguez trying to steal second there. Slid at the home. It looks like he had a little, hurt his thumb a little bit. They had to take him out of the game. Now, right now, we're kind of waiting on like a health diagnosis on it. It seemed like this was a contusion, and Dominguez right after the game said, look, everything should be fine. He should be okay. So he should be all right, but again, we'll see there. But, of course, the bad news for the Yankees, which we'll cover a bit later with that, was Luke Weaver. Now, it was a non-safe situation, but I understand Boone, at this point, you don't want to get swept. You have a lead against the Dodgers. You're on the road there. It's against your last game on the road trip there. You want to make sure you get this win. And plus, Weaver wasn't using the first 2 games there because the 2 various situations. Yankees lost the first game, didn't have a lead. Second game, a blowout. You're not going to put your closer in that game there. So I understand Boone wanted to get him in and get some work. As he's warming up, he feels a little something in his hammy there, so they actually, as he's warming up there, they kind of shut him down, and so he wasn't available for that game anymore. And now, actually, obviously they reviewed him back when he came back to New York with an MRI. Looks like he's going to be out a little bit. Again, we'll get that a little bit later in the show. But overall, when we look at the series for the Yankees, the build-up and all the hype and Ohtani versus Judge, Yankees-Dodgers, was it a great, compelling series? No, I can't say that. I mean, of all the games, I guess, if you're a fan of baseball, I guess maybe the first game would have been the more exciting one because, one team had a 5-2 lead and they blew it there, and then the home team won, The third game for the Yankees, again, it wasn't really excitable. It was tight early on, but by the third or fourth inning, Yankees started teeing off, again, with the Big Ben Rice home run and stuff like that. And again, Yankees just kept tacking on runs after that. Peraza got another hit there as well. So it was a pretty easy, comfortable win. So I'm going to say Game 3, even though the Yankees won, it wasn't excitable. So again, was a series, built up? Was it great? Was it dramatic? No. And again, you have a little bit bad taste in your mouth because you felt, the way you lost that first game there, you just don't want to do that. And the fact that the Yankees lost to the Dodgers in the World Series, and you kind of got in your head a little bit like maybe we can't beat these guys, but it wasn't really overwhelming to say the Dodgers are much better than the Yankees. Again, I think it was just kind of even there. And I kind of say before, I think, if it was a playoff game, I think, Boone would have took Max Fried out much, much earlier there in that first game and not let him get beat like that there. So, overall, I think you'll take it. Again, you don't want to get swept, and the Yankees were able to avoid the sweep. And the Yankees, the only team right now in the league which hasn't been swept yet. Again, and about 4 different times this season there, where they've lost first 2 games of series there, but won the third game to avoid the sweep. So the Yankees avoid the sweep. They're not the home team, they're the road team. So it wasn't a terrible series, and it wasn't a terrible road trip for the Yankees. Probably you'd be more worried, kicking yourself in the pants at that first game against the Rockies. Again, they started with 3 games against the Rockies. They actually lost the first game 3-2. I mean, you're in Colorado, you're against the worst team in baseball, and you can only score 2 runs. So that would probably frustrate you a little bit more there. The Yankees, of course, win the next 2 games with that. And probably maybe just to even out with the Dodgers is against the Angels there, that you swept that series, which you were not expecting to do. You figure you come into a home field, maybe you want to take 2 out of 3, which you would think there. Again, Angels aren't as bad as Colorado is, but, they're a decent team. They're hovering around 500 more or less, and you're on the road and stuff like that. But to take all 3 games, and even that final game, you win a 1-0, like kind of nail-biting, kind of cliffhanger type of game there, you'll take that. In fact, okay, so you lose 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. It's not the worst thing in the world. And even the first game, you kind of gave it to him a little bit there. So overall, I'll say it's a good road trip, 6-3. I think you'll take that overall there. And again, you're probably kicking yourself in the pants more about losing that first game in Colorado against basically, it's like it's below a minor league team. It's almost like a college baseball team. How can you only score 2 runs in Colorado, which is supposed to be like the most offensive-friendly ballpark in the world? Of course, Judge hit a home run, which he's going to do there, but the rest of the offense didn't give you much there. So that's probably the game you gotten away for you. So, overall, so it was a good road trip for the Yankees. Yankees-Dodgers, not really the greatest matchup. And again, you kind of wondering a little bit, if these 2 teams lock up in the World Series, how's it going to go? Doesn't look too good yet right now. It just kind of feels like you can't beat them. But again, I think it was both teams were much more evenly matched than maybe you feel there. And again, I just think with Game 1 there, the Yankees kind of gave it to them there. So the Yankees could just have easily won 2 out of 3 in this series. So, for everything, I think overall it was a good road trip for the Yankees. The series itself wasn't dramatic there, but it was like that. And if you see them again, it's a World Series, and I think, again, you'll just see where it goes there, because these teams could be a little different. You got the trade deadline, the teams can make some other moves, they can bring some other players in, but Yankees and Dodgers, pretty close, both of them. But of course, more concerning with the Yankees is going to be the loss of Luke Weaver. Now, it's according to Jeff Passan. The Yankees haven't officially put out a word yet, but you can pretty much put it in the bank. Looks like he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and that's with the hamstring injury. Again, the third game Los Angeles there, as he was in the bullpen warming up, felt something there, like something, a little tightness, so obviously they didn't bring him out in the game. Took him to New York, had an MRI, and after the MRI, they determined that it looks like he's going to have to be put on the IL there with the hamstring injury. Again, 4 to 6 week there, and it's kind of annoying for the Yankees because obviously, he started the season with Devin Williams as a closer. Didn't work out a little bit, and you kind of shifted around. And obviously, like the comfort of Luke Weaver there. Now, look, of course, the Yankees, I think they could maybe, weather through the storm a little bit. Again, Devin Williams has been at least a little bit better version of himself than the start of the season. One of the previous episodes, I kind of went over his numbers there. His stuff is looking a little better, a little crisper, a little better spin rate, and a little bit more bite on the changeup there. So, and of course, Devin Williams has experience as a closer there. So, I would say more overall, he'll probably be the de facto guy to go in there. But of course, coming right off the IL very soon as well is Fernando Cruz, who the Yankees also on some off days when they want to give Luke Weaver or Devin Williams a rest, they have used Cruz to close out games, and he has done that. And he's coming back from his kind of shoulder soreness as well there. So, I think the Yankees will be okay through the situation, and overall, I think the Yankee bullpen has been good overall. I know, again, the first game against Los Angeles, the Dodgers there, they blew the game with Loaiza and Hill, but again, I think those more the situation. That was more Max Fried kind of, causing that mess more than anything else. It was just bad timing there. But overall, again, the Yankee bullpen has been good there. And again, it's a blow for the Yankees there, but I think it'll be okay. Again, they have some arms there they can put in that closer role, and you're still getting pieces back for the Yankees. And again, so you're waiting for pieces like a Scott Efros, for example, to come in there. So, everyone can just move down the line a bit. Loaiza, again, he can handle late inning, high leverage situations, as I said there. So I think the Yankees will be okay weather the storm there. But of course, Weaver out there 4 to 6 weeks. And again, if it's just a hamstring thing, okay, Once you get to other things like, arm or structural stuff or shoulder, that's what you'd be a little concerned with. So hamstring's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously you need your legs to pitch as a pitcher there, but of all the type of injuries that could be out there, if it's a hamstring, I guess you'll take it. Again, even more than a groin injury as well, because those could almost last like half the season there. So yeah, the Yankees should be able to weather through it, but again, Weaver's going to be out for a little bit there. But again, I think the Yankees have at least the guys there that can at least take on that closer role in the meantime until he gets back. Another injury, okay, less concerning, Luke Weaver, because I mentioned before, Jason Dominguez's thumb. Also in there in that final Dodgers game, they tried to steal second base. Looked like his hand went in there the wrong way. Now they had to take him actually out of the game there. But after the game, they were kind of asking him, he said everything should be okay, nothing to worry about there. So kind of still right now, it's kind of actually easy recording this as I'm saying this right now. It's kind of fluid situation, it says. So again, something could come down. They say maybe he has to go on the IL, but he didn't at least feel after the game that he would have to go on the IL there. So maybe it's a situation, maybe he just needs a game off there. They just tape it up a little bit. Again, it's contusion, so maybe it was a bit of a cut, a little bruising there. So it didn't seem too serious there where he time off. And a kind of player not knows ready. So the fact that he felt like it should be no problem there, probably will be no problem there. Again, he's been hitting a little bit better there. Again, he's not been really unleashing the power as you like to see there. But again, involved in some of these rallies there. Defense is still there. You're holding your breath a little bit a lot of times when the ball gets hit to him. Maybe he hasn't been terrible there. Again, you like to see him a little bit more offense there, but overall, for 22 years old, yeah, he's doing okay in the situation there. You just like to see a little bit more. And the Yankee front office continues to torture poor Carlos Carrasco. Now, as we know, last time he was put on the waivers there, nobody claimed him. And then, of course, the Yankees, optioned him to AAA, which he accepted the job there. Now, the Yankees had a similar situation, really had to do with Game 2 of the Dodgers series where Will Warren got clocked around a little bit. Now, they weren't sure what was going to happen in Game 3 with Yarbrough. Now, Yarbrough ended up having a really good game there. But the Yankees were too short, so they needed an extra arm there. So they had to set down De Los Santos up there, and they brought up Carlos Carrasco to the major league level there, just in case, if Game 3 started to blow up there, they need someone to eat multiple innings. That was going to be Carrasco's job. But again, as mentioned before, Yarbrough had a great game, a fantastic game, get probably the best pitch game of all three there. So didn't need Carlos Carrasco. And seemingly right after that, now the Yankees, again, is one of those, another fluid situation could get announced at any moment right now. Looks like with Fernando Cruz coming off the IL, they're going to need a roster spot, and it looks like that roster spot will then be utilized to kicking Carlos Carrasco back off the team. So they bring the poor guy, they fly him across country to go to Los Angeles, where he doesn't have to throw anything, and now it looks like they put him on the waivers. Now, it's according to a story from Joel Sherman of the New York Post there, that he is on waivers there. Now, if no team claims him, which doesn't seem like the team is going to do, again, the Yankees put him on the waivers a couple of weeks ago when they designated for assignment that nobody claimed him back then. Now, he accepted the AAA job to go to the pitch for the Rail Riders there. Now, will he do the similar thing? He could, but because he's a veteran and the time he's put in there, if they put him on the waivers and no one claims that, Carrasco could claim free agency and see if someone wants to purchase him. Again, does it seem like the market isn't really hot for him right now? But again, it's a couple of weeks later, maybe things change. Obviously, some pitchers get hurt and from some other teams, so maybe someone has some interest in Carrasco. But again, according to Joel Sherman, Carrasco's on the waivers right now there. So let's see if someone claims him, and if someone doesn't claim him, again, he has a choice. He could accept the AAA job, go down to AAA again for the Yankees, which he did originally. May seem like he would do that. Why not to stay in the game there? Or he can elect for free agency and hope someone wants to purchase him. But again, the market seems so hot for Carrasco, so we'll see what happens to the guy. But poor guy, they keep bringing him up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But if I had to guess, I would think he would want to stay in AAA there. Just keep pitching, keep showcasing yourself, and wait for an opportunity. Again, somebody could get hurt. Maybe some team will want to trade for you from the Yankees, and the Yankees can make a deal there. Because if you elect for free agency, already fine. But then if no one signed you, you kind of left out there blowing in the wind there. So we'll see what happens to Carrasco. Most likely, I think he will stay in AAA, but maybe want to elect for free agency. We'll just see what happens. And staying on the pitching front, and a lot of stuff happened in that Dodgers series, not only on the field, but off the field. And, of course, one of those was a batting practice thrown by Marcus Stroman. Of course, he had the hurt knee, and he hasn't pitched since April 11th. Now, he did throw batting practice back on May 9th, and that was in Tampa there. But after that situation, he still felt a discomfort in his knee there, so they shut him down for a while. So what he did is he would just throw some bullpen sessions outside, not face live hitters. But looks like at the Saturday game, that was the second game against the Dodgers there, they actually had him facing hitters again there. And good news for the Yankees and good news for Stroman there. Afterwards, he felt much better. He didn't feel the knee issue with them. And even Boone said his stuff looked pretty good there. So Stroman kind of working his way back there. Really no timetable of what he's going to do there, but they do expect him probably going to have to take some type of minor league games there. Not going to throw him right into the fire there, which you would expect there. I mean, again, he hasn't played since April 11th there, dealing with the knee there. Now, really, is there a spot for him in the rotation right now? You wouldn't say no, because again, Yarbrough has been great for the Yankees. I mean, up probably right behind Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. I mean, he's probably probably been the Yankees' probably best pitcher over the last couple of turns in the rotation there. So I don't know. There's no really opening for Stroman right now there, and we know the whole issue before the start of the season, claiming that he won't pitch out of the bullpen. He's a starting pitcher there, but we'll see how that all works out. And again, maybe someone gets hurt, which we don't want to see that, but maybe that does happen and it does open up a situation there. But again, I don't see that for Stroman right now, just because if you look at the five there, the Yankees are pretty set right now. Again, you got Fried and Rondon at the top. Clark Schmidt's been all right. Again, Yarborough's been good for the Yankees, and Will Warren. I know he had that clunker against the Dodgers there, but overall, I think Will Warren's been pretty good lately with the Yankees there. Again, previous 4 starts been good there, so and you're not going to yank him that. And overall, if you look at entering that Dodgers series, Yankees starting pitching had been the best in baseball with a collective ERA of 2.54 leading up to the Dodgers series there. Again, those numbers got all thrown out of whack, obviously, after the second game we give up 18 runs there. But again, the Yankees starting pitching has been good overall there, so we'll see what happens. No rush to get Stroman back there. And again, the Yankees kind of just baby him back into the team a little bit. They don't have to rush him back there. And again, I don't know exactly how they're going to put them. I don't think you bump Clark Schmidt right now. Maybe you bump Yarbrough just because obviously more lately he's been a reliever, but so far in his last past 4-5 games starting for the Yankees, he's been absolutely brilliant there. So how do you take the guy out there? So I don't know exactly where there's room for Stroman right now, but we'll see how that all works out. And of course, you'd probably thinking about Luis Gil as well. Also in that Dodgers series, that was the Friday night game. For the first time all season, he threw a bullpen session. That was only 15 pitches, so nothing crazy there. He's still going to be, as Boone said, a while to get back there. So, I guess he'll throw full bullpen sessions and eventually see some minor league games there. So, as we're starting June now, you figure he's probably going to be due sometime in July, maybe mid to late July there. So, we were expecting him back in June, but probably looking more at July. But again, the same thing with him. There's no real rush. Yeah, you like what Luis Gil could do. We know what he do. Again, it was the American League Rookie of the Year last year, but you're in no rush getting back. Again, Yankees starting pitching hasn't been terrible right now, so again, you're not really rushed to get those two guys back there, and that's another situation. What do you do with them? I think Luis Gil versus Stroman there, you give Luis Gil the preference there of bumping somebody. Maybe you do them bump Yarbrough out of the rotation, or maybe you do bump Clark Schmidt or Will Warren out of the rotation for Luis Gil, but I don't think you do that for Stroman. And on a happier note, DJ LeMahieu looking more and more like his old self now. Covered some of this in some of the previous episodes. Obviously, it's really been a kind of somewhat of a small sample size. He missed a whole chunk of the season with the calf injury there, but so far so good. Has been back there, and surprisingly, Boone putting him at second base, and he's been playing some decent second base as well at age 36 there. Again, not really impressed with the 239 bat average, but if you look the way he was the past couple of seasons, and where he looked like he wasn't even a Major League Baseball player anymore, certainly looks much better version of himself than the past couple of seasons. And we don't know what it was. Was it a foot injury? Was it the hernia injury? Was it some sort of midsection injury supposedly you had there? And then maybe just the fact of getting old and you got to kind of maybe start your swing a little bit. And we even saw Paul Goldschmidt had to make some tweaks towards last season for him, which is carried from last season and to the great season so far he's having for the Yankees hitting wise as well. So maybe DJ also had to make some tweaks there as well. Whatever the case may be, looks much better version of himself, and highlighted in that third game against the Dodgers as getting 4 hits, something he hasn't done since 2021 there. So that's not fluke type of stuff. That means it's kind of serious there. And if you want to look at some of the balls he hit there, so the exit velo, 2 of the balls he hit, the exit velo in the Dodgers game were over 100 miles per hour. And right now, according to baseball stats, so he's averaging a 91.8 exit velo average so far in the games he played so far this season, which has been his high since 2019. So he's hitting the ball harder than he's had in almost like 4 to 5 seasons, which all kind of makes sense because, again, he was great in 2018 and 2019 for the Yankees. 2020 is hard to tell there because that was the COVID-shortened season. I think it was okay, but we saw from 2021 almost up to last season a decline in DJ LeMahieu. Not only a decline, but also the injuries and everything else going on with him. So obviously it looks like whatever the situation is, he would had some issue from 2020 to almost now there, where now again he's hitting the ball much better there, and as mentioned, the exit velo now as high as it has been almost 4 or 5 years ago there. So whatever he did, I don't know if he tweaked anything, or it's just the fact maybe his body's healthier, looking much better than himself. And again, playing second base there at age 36 there, which you were expecting, but Boone going with it, and it seemed like that's going to be the plan moving forward. Now, we covered a little bit also in the previous season about Jazz's rehab. Didn't really have a full timetable at it, but pretty much right after that episode, he did start a double-A Somerset assignment, and surprisingly and shockingly, well, you maybe shouldn't be, they have him playing third base. So it looks like the plan's going to be when Jazz does get back, it's going to revert back to third base, which, and you figure, my guess was putting DJ at third base because, again, the position is less taxing on the body. You don't have to have much range. And at 36 there, you're asking the guy a lot to do it second base versus playing third base. But for whatever reason, and I guess Boone knows more and Cashman knows more of what's going on with these two guys, looks like Jazz is going to have to play third base and DJ will be at second there. And Jazz, obviously he wants to play second base. He kind of said, look, I am a second baseman, but he's more of a team player than Gleyber was last season, so he kind of said, look, I don't love it, but whatever, he doesn't care, he just wants to play, he wants to be on the team there. So Jazz saying the right thing, doing the right thing, so it looks like Jazz will be the third baseman, and DJ will play second. Now, look, if DJ looks like completely winded, I don't know, maybe by August he's not getting the balls as good, maybe they switch back and put DJ at third and put Jazz at second. I just think you should have kept Jazz there at second because it was going well a little bit. You had a little camaraderie going on with Volpe there in spring there. There was kind of a bit of a thing there. Now you're kind of breaking that up a little bit. Overall, it doesn't matter there. We want what's the best defense possible. So if putting DJ at second and Jazz at third is what gives you the best defense, fine, going to go with it there. But again, you can always flip those two guys back there. But again, I like the fact that Jazz is willing to take one for the team. If it's him playing out of position like he did last year when he played for the Yankees, fine, he's doing that. Now, in terms of when Jazz comes back, who's going to be the odd man out? It's either going to be Pablo Reyes or probably Yorbit Vivas. Obviously, you can't have all these guys in play in the infield. Now with Peraza, and I kind of covered this in the audio podcast a little bit, Cashman has to be a little bit down on him. I mean, you look at the batting average there, it's not too good. He's hovering around like 157, 160 there, which is like really atrocious. Now, third base, he's been pretty good there, reliable. So a guy like that, you kind of just want someone, you give him a spot start once in a while, maybe bring him in from late inning defense. I guess he could be okay in that role. And not that Vivas and Pablo Reyes, if you look at the three of them, Peraza probably has a little bit more of the upside of the three, so you'd want to keep him on the roster there, even though he really hasn't really been the guy we thought he could be. He used to be a double-digit home run type of guy in AAA. We haven't seen that part of his game. He bop a home run once in a while, but still we haven't seen the power from Peraza we thought we were going to get from the guy. And again, he's out of options there, so Yankees really can't send him back down, or they just have to put him on waivers, something like that, which I don't think they want to do right now. So when Jazz comes back, I was either Vivas or Reyes are probably going to get the boot somewhere, probably get sent down to AAA there, and he'll be a guy that probably just comes off the bench once in a while because you figure the full-time starting job will go to Jazz once he's back and fully healthy there. And again, if DJ starts to maybe tire a little bit, or maybe he starts reverting back to the bad version of DJ, maybe you can move some guys around a little bit, where maybe put Jazz at second base and maybe put Peraza at third base. But at least for as soon as Jazz gets back, looks like he'll be the third base and stick with DJ at second. And in case you missed it, there was kind of a human interest story. How to deal with Aaron Judge. This was an interview he gave to USA Today, asking him various different things. Kind of like, and of course, saying some of the stuff you expect him to say, like, I wouldn't trade to be a Yankee for anything else. But more interesting, I guess, the story was, how his life is on the road. And if you got to kind of look at the guy, I mean, he's 6'7". I mean, he's kind of the de facto face of baseball. I mean, obviously he can't blend into a crowd there. So I kind of asked him, like, what does he do on the road? And he basically said that he pretty much stays in the hotel room just because he really can't go anywhere. Obviously, he's the Yankee captain. Again, he's super famous, so wherever he goes, he probably gets mobbed. And again, one story he specified was, I guess, one of the most recent trips to Seattle there. He went to a Starbucks, shockingly, in Seattle there. And basically, as he was trying to get a coffee there, I got absolutely mobbed there at the counter, people wanting autographs and pictures and all that stuff there. So the poor guy can't even go around. But of course, Judge always says the right thing, does the right thing. He kind of mentioned that, look, yeah, I got a job to do. I'm not there to sightsee, so whatever. He pretty much just stays in a hotel room, and then when it's time for game time, I guess he takes a team bus and goes to the game there. So, and he kind of mentioned that when he does retire, then he can do his sightseeing right now, so it doesn't really bother him much as a player. And look, like, I can understand maybe just get cooped up, there in your room a little bit, but also when you have $390 million in the bank there, I think you could maybe just contend with, sit in the hotel room a little bit and maybe just, flip around the TV channel. Poor guy can't go out there and blend in. Same thing, Giancarlo Stanton, another guy, another giant. I mean, it's really hard for these guys to really blend in. If they were kind of like 5'11", 5'10", or 6 foot there, they could probably just, put a baseball cap in and no one really notice them. Judge and Stanton, though, those two guys stick out like a sore thumb. So that's the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. So poor Aaron Judge is barricaded in the hotel room, but I think he'll be fine. Yankees have to tread water a little bit with Luke Weaver. Going to be out a couple of weeks, but again, I think he'll be okay in the bullpen there. And the Yankees, again, have a pretty much comfortable lead in the AL East there. So again, treading along nicely. So that's the episode. Make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show, as well as on YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.